Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here. So the new expansion Murder at Castle Nathria has been announced for Hearthstone. And I'm probably going to make another video talking about some of the details around that, but I wanted to talk specifically about the arena part of the patch notes here. And this patch is live already, and the arena section has one major detail, which is that Taverns of Time is back. This is what we predicted as they had teased it pretty heavily on Twitter. If you don't know what this is, if you weren't around in 2018, this was a one-time about month-long event they did where they added 28 new cards and very wacky cards to Arena specifically, not available in any of the other modes. They do show this as if it's a rotation, but I checked, these are the same sets they're already in. The main change here is just that Taverns of Time is being added. And so because of this effectively being a new rotation, if you had any Arena run open, it's now been retired and you should have a ticket to replace it. I find it rather annoying that they don't give us any warning really about these, because I know some people that already, had a really good run going and it's gone. Kind of sucks, but I hope they can improve that in the future. But anyway, they are adding the same 28 cards with a couple exceptions. Murazond, which we'll go over all the cards individually, but Murazond has been removed, and many of the other cards, over half the cards I believe, or about half the cards, were adjusted just in stats or mana cost to try to make them more relevant, because they want people playing with them, so they don't want them to be cards you skip in draft. So as usual, the patch notes tend to leave you wondering, but that's why Matt London has a Twitter thread to explain exactly what these changes were. So these are all the changes, but let's get back to that. It talks about here how these cards are being added to the current sets in rotation. Murazond has been removed. He mentions this specifically as an accessibility issue. And for a little bit of detail, Murazond specifically was a card that limited your own turns to 15 seconds and gave you more extra cards. So I guess they're deciding that they don't really like that mechanic anymore. And he mentions how runs will be retired, and he implies that everyone's getting a ticket here. I'm not sure if that's what he means. I mean, right now, as of recording this video, I can't get into Hearthstone at all. Not into Arena, so I should keep a lookout on that. You might have a free ticket, you might not. Who knows? But with that, he also adds this detail of here are all of the buffs. We'll go over all the cards individually, so I'll talk about the cards which are buffed. One more important detail is that they specifically say they're monitoring the impact of Colossals in Arena right now, and also the impact of specifically legendaries showing up too much due to Discover and deciding too many games. So it's good that they have this on their radar, and every time they've said this, they've pretty much made some kind of change, so it kind of gives us, I don't think he's trying to guarantee that changes will happen, but oftentimes when he says this, a change comes, so we'll have to see about that. But with that, let's go over these cards, because it's going to be very helpful to at least know what some of these cards do, because otherwise you might get caught off guard by a few of these. So this is the whole Wikipedia page, or Hearthstone wiki page, about the event last time. So these are the old version of all of the cards. As we mentioned, some of these are going to be a bit different, so I'll tell what the differences are as we get to them. But the first one here is Infinite Murloc. This was a 1-mana 1/1 that shuffles an Infinite Murloc into your deck, and each one that you shuffle makes all the future ones +1/+1 stronger. This is being adjusted to a 2/2, so, having it start as a 1-mana 2/2 just to make it more viable. So, 1-drop that gives you more and more overstat 1-drops theoretically. Cool card. Next one we have here is Temporal Anomaly. This was a 2-mana 2/2 elemental, now going to be a 2-mana 2/3 elemental. And it's when you draw this, add a random spell to your hand from your class. And these are neutral, by the way, so all classes can get these. And yeah, 2-mana 2/3 draw a random spell, pretty good. You don't even have to play it, you get the spell immediately, so it's a little bit better even than that. The next one here is Timeline Witness. This is a 3-mana 2/4. Instead of drawing your normal card each turn, discover a card from your deck. Okay, that's pretty cool. A little bit slow though. This is probably one of the weaker ones, because they chose not to buff this one, interestingly. But yeah, very interesting card. The next one here is Possibility Seeker. This was a 4-mana 4/5 dragon. It's now being buffed to a 4-mana 4/6. Battlecry, shuffle your hand into your deck, draw that many cards. So basically a full mulligan. You may not always want to shuffle your hand into your deck, but sometimes you will, so use with discretion. Next one here is Chromie. This is a 4-mana 4/4. It was a 4-mana 4/4. Now it's a 4-mana 5/5. Battlecry, shuffle 4 historical epochs into your deck. So it's an overstat minion to start out, and these historical epochs we have down here, one of them is cast when drawn, give your minions +2/+2. One of them is cast when drawn, cast consecration, basically. This one is add 2 random spells to your hand, and this one is add 2 random legendary minions to your hand. So I think Chromie is, all these effects are very good. Some of them, like especially the minion interaction ones are going to be better sometimes than others. But yeah, Chromie's definitely going to be one of those you're really gonna want. It's going to be a very good addition to any deck. And that's all the neutral ones they adjusted, so the rest of these are exactly as they show up. This one is Timeway Wanderer, 5 mana, 6/3, discover a spell, reduce its cost by 5, and then put it on top of your deck. Very interesting, so you can't use it immediately, but you get a huge ramp effect here. Potentially very strong, but also potentially very easy to whiff, especially in classes that don't have good big spells. So this will really depend on what class you're playing, I think, a lot more than the others. The next one here is Wildlands Adventure. This is a 5 mana 5/5 battle cry. Add a random card from the Hall of Fame to your hand. So there's the Hall of Fame is cards that they had previously removed from Classic set, I believe, or Basic. And at this point, a lot of those cards aren't even necessarily going to be that good, but there's some very interesting cards you can get. You can get like odd even cards. You can get like Sylvanas, Ragnaros. This will be, kind of a hit or miss thing, but very... some cards that you won't expect to see in Arena will show up due to this card. Next one here is Stasis Dragon, which is a 6 mana 10/10 dragon, which starts dormant and awakens with Rush after 2 turns, so delayed effect, but you just get a giant minion. Pretty cool. Other one here, Murazond. As we mentioned, this card being removed, it used to give you shorten your turn timers and let you draw extra cards, but we won't be seeing that one. And the last one here is Timebound Giant, which is a 15 mana 8/8, which costs 1 less for each card you've drawn. So if you're not adding any card draw, then you're going to have that active around turn 8 or so. But if you do have card draw, and some of these other things do potentially give you more card draws, you might be able to use this significantly earlier than that. Or if you're Warlock, of course. So this should be pickable in basically any deck, but some decks will be a lot better than others. And with that, let's move on to the class cards. We'll go by class. Here's Druid. Flash forward. This was a 3 mana card. It's being buffed to 2 mana. It's each player gains 2 mana crystals and draws 2 cards. So symmetric effects like this aren't necessarily that good. There are other things that do kind of similar things to this. I don't know. This is a pretty risky card, even after it's been buffed, I guess. But yeah, still a little sketchy probably, but certain decks might want it. If you think you can use this better than your opponent, then go for it. Other one here is Harbinger of Catastrophe. This is a 6 mana 6/7. At the start of your turn, summon the highest cost minion from each player's deck. So it's an ogre when you play it, but I guess it's kind of similar. If you can get some kind of big druid running, then go for it, but extremely risky card here. Druid not getting the best out of this expansion, so to speak. Here we know which cards are good, the hunter ones. So the first one here, and they are both being buffed, by the way. So the first one here is Chrono Shot. This is return an enemy minion to your opponent's hand. It costs 2 more. This card already seems extremely good, and they are buffing this to 2 mana, which basically means it's an instant targeted freezing trap. Absolutely crazy, insanely powerful card. And the other one here is Infinite Wolf. This is a 4 mana 5/5 rush, kind of, except it says after this attack, shuffle it into your deck and give future Infinite Wolves +2/+2. This is one where it's very important to know how it works, because unless I'm misunderstanding it, I think pretty sure the way this works, it says shuffle this into your deck, which means it removes itself from the board. Oh, by the way, they're buffing this to 3 mana as well, so it's not really a 3 mana 5/5 rush, insane, right? But it removes itself, so it doesn't really, work. You're basically getting a targeted, almost deadly shot. It's not, the first one definitely won't be a deadly shot, but then, future one, if it continues to grow and grow, it will be basically just deadly shots, right? That you can target. So, good cards. Next we have Mage here. So Mage has 2 cards, which are also both being buffed. First one being Cavern Dreamer. This is a 2 mana 1/3, being buffed actually to a 1/4. At the end of your turn, add a random spell that costs 2 or less to your hand. Actually, they have some of the other cards that do this effect. I personally despise this effect, but it's a 2 mana 1/4, and it is limited to only giving you small spells, so that might not be too bad. The one risk here would be if it gives you active Arcane Blasts, like it's like really unfair kind of quickly, but hopefully most of the time it won't be too problematic because it's not going to just like straight up give you Rune, right? And the other one here is Consider the Past. This was 4 mana being buffed to 3 mana, and it's add 3 random spells from the past to your hand. I don't actually know how they're defining from the past, but I'm assuming that just means like all wild spells, basically anything that's not in standard. So you can get like just completely random spells that may or may not be good. Overall, 3 mana, draw 3 spells, pretty strong most of the time, you would think. With that, next we have Paladin. So Paladin, both of their cards are getting buffed as well. This first one is Blessing of Aeons. It says 1 mana here. Give a minion at the end of your turn, gain +1/+1. This is actually being buffed to 0 mana. Good card, I guess. 0 mana +1/+1. And if you can actually get a minion to stick, you get even more buffs. Pretty cool. The other one here is Bronze Broodmother. Previously a 5 mana 5/5 dragon. When you draw this, summon a 1/1 whelp. Kind of random, but okay. Good if you have a raid boss Onyxia on the board, I guess. But this one is also being buffed to a 6/6, so from being understated to overstated, pretty significant buff, making it pretty pickable. And with that, next we move on to Priest. Priest is getting neither of their cards buffed. LOL Priest. First one though being Reminisce. This is a 2 mana shadow spell. Add 2 random cards your opponent played this game to your hand. So if they're cards your opponent played, they're probably draftable, right? You might get coin though, and then you get kind of kecked. But yeah, usually 2 mana draw 2 draftable cards, pretty good. You could potentially steal one of your opponent's Taverns of Time cards as well. The other one here is Ripple in Time. This is a 1 mana shadow spell. Discover a minion. If you play it this turn, it has Echo. There are certainly going to be some minions that you should not be able to get with Echo that this could be absolutely insane with, but most of the time, usually probably not too much you can do with that, but occasionally you might get some really insane interaction there. Overall, even worst case, 1 mana discover a minion, not bad. So overall, probably still not enough of a reason to actually pick Priest in this meta. But next we move on to Rogue. Rogue is having both of their cards buffed. The first one here is Deja Vu. 1 mana being buffed actually to 0 mana. So now it's 0 mana, discover a copy of a spell you played this game. So obviously you need to have actually gotten a spell, but you know, there's plenty of spells you would love to copy. You would love to copy Reconnaissance, Jackpot, Shark in the Water, Blood in the Water, just tons of things. So seems like it's going to be pretty good. 0 mana, discover card, very good. And even if you've cast multiple, you still get to choose the one, so you'll usually get something good. You won't get screwed over by just randomly getting the coin back. So pretty strong. And also pretty strong, Thief of Futures. This was a 4 mana 4/3, now a 3 mana 4/3, so totally pickable card just off of stats. And Battlecry, add a copy of the top card of your opponent's deck to your hand. So obviously you could get something insane off of this, but also if nothing else, you get the card and also the information what your opponent's next draw is. So just very nice to have. And next is Shaman. So Shaman has 2 cards here. The first one, Master of Realities. Previously a 6 mana 5/7, now a 6 mana 5/8. So just gaining 1 health. After you summon a minion, transform it into a random minion that costs 2 more. So this is not play, this is summon. So any way you can possibly, you know, summon a minion, even if that's just hitting your hero power button. A hero power then becomes a random 3-drop, and any other minion you play gets really good. So maybe with certain overstat minions you wouldn't want this, and there is a risk that things could get worse, right? But generally speaking, especially if you can combine this with understated Battlecry minions, for example, then this can be very powerful. And the next one here is Stasis Elemental. 4 mana 3/5, staying that way. Elemental, Battlecry, freeze a minion until this leaves the battlefield. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm assuming you could still like silence this away by silencing your own minion. But yeah, overall slightly understated, but very strong potential ability, so it's probably worth picking. And the second to last class we have here is Warlock. First one being Grasp the Future. Draw 2 cards, they cost 2 less for 4 mana. So a little bit risky, because if you get cards you don't really want to play, then you're kind of having a really slow turn at that point, but overall probably going to be pretty decent. Oftentimes you'll at least get to play one of them, and then you're basically getting a life tab that didn't cost you mana, and then you're getting another card draw. So, you know, usually pretty good, but not like crazy strong most of the time. It's also the chance that like if you play this on curve, maybe you can get a 7-drop to play on turn 5, and a 7-drop such as the next card right here, which is Rift Warden. This was a 7 mana 5/5 dragon being changed to a 7 mana 7/7. Battlecry, discard a random minion Death Rattle summon it. So obviously there's a huge possibility that you could just have some other giant mini in your hand and then get it for free. What's interesting about this being buffed in health is that might actually make the card worse sometimes, because you might want it to die in that case, and it having more health might actually make it harder to kill off. However, I think more often than not, you'll be happy to have the additional stats, especially because they're also buffing its attack, which makes it harder to ignore, because a 7/7 hitting you in the face, usually not exactly what you can afford too many times. And with that, the last class we have here is Warrior. Warrior has 2 cards, the first one being buffed. This is Draconic Herald, previously a 6 mana 5/6, now a 6 mana 6/6, gaining 1 attack stat. Battle Cry, discover a minion, give it +3/+3, and then put it on the top of your deck. So similar to one of those other cards, kind of a delayed, in this case, a minion hand buff, and hopefully you get a good minion, but pretty much any minion you get with +3/+3 is going to be pretty good, right? Warrior does have extremely good cards, so you could get a card worse than what your natural draw would be, but most of the time, right, you'll get something pretty good. And then the last card on this list here is Fate Cleaver, a 4 mana 4/2 weapon, so not amazing, but pretty good, and with the text of after this kills a minion, destroy all copies of it wherever they are. So overall, just going to be like a fair card, but every once in a while you might get some crazy value out of that. And that is it for the cards here. I guess the one thing to note is that Demon Hunter did not exist in 2018 when they first did this event, and they apparently did not bother to actually add new cards for Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter just gets the neutrals, I guess. So one thing to be aware of, Demon Hunter is not one of the most pickable classes right now anyway, so if you are interested in playing the new cards, you probably should just not play Demon Hunter for now. Alright, that is it for the cards in the Taverns of Time event. I'll be making a new video pretty soon talking about the cards that they have revealed for the new expansion. I believe there have just been 9 so far, but more will be coming in the next coming weeks. For that, I hope this was helpful. Thanks a lot for hanging out, everyone. Hope you have fun in the Taverns of Time. If you thought this was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. But yeah, see you later.